Anthony Pirog is one of the younger masters of modern guitar. His work in the Mesthetics, who performed two of the best shows I saw last year, in his solo records, a new one of which has just come out, and in his work with his wife, cellist and vocalist Janelle, show an amazing range of guitar skills and sound production. If you haven't checked him out yet, please check out all of the above and sit back and enjoy my conversation with Anthony. It's always great to catch up with him. When did you record Pocket Poems?
Okay, so Pocket Poem, I started recording it in probably late 2014. Um, it's the follow-up to Palo Colorado Dream that came out that year. And I wanted to try to do a record every year, every other year. So I started recording tracks then. This record was recorded differently from my other things. When we did Palo Colorado Dream, Mike and Chess met me in Virginia outside of DC, and we had never played together as a trio. So I had 2 days in the studio booked, and we just played through the songs once or twice. And that was very exciting, but I wasn't sure what exactly was going to happen. So with this record, my idea was to start recording tracks on my own and then have Mike and Chess come in and play on top of some pre-recorded material. And then I wanted to build the tracks up from there like that, more of like a rock or pop record, just so I could explore some other things I was interested in with sounds and things like that. So,
Right. So everything that has the full band on it is you recording first. Did you record to a click track or a loop or?
sometimes I used a click track. I think sometimes I didn't. Um, and I mean, it was so long ago, I don't remember every little detail. But for instance, the first track on the record, Dog Days, was something I did live. I just created this loop with a bass line, and I really liked the overall texture, but I wanted to have more flexibility with the mix. So I recorded my version of the loop one track at a time so that we could kind of move things around and add different ambience to the different voices. So I recorded the loop section and then in the solo in the beginning, and then I had Chess come down, and he played the drums over the outro, and I just kind of built it from there. That's kind of how most of the record went down. Like I said, I just start building things, and once I had their parts, I added to it and tried to create what I wanted to hear.
Right. So as long as I mean, it was virtually like playing live. In other words, if you weren't using a click track, they'd just come in and play to you the way whatever you were playing.
Yeah, I mean, my thought was everyone has their own feel anyway, so there will be that push and pull, even if it's, a small amount. And I mean, they're so amazing. I wasn't worried about it sounding too kind of sterile because of the click track. So
And you weren't so when you didn't use a click track, you weren't worried about editing or stuff like that, being able to move
not
stuff
really. I
around.
wasn't concerned about editing their parts. I just wanted to, for myself, I was really into guitar synthesizers from the 80s. So I was collecting them because of the recordings by, John Abercrombie, Alan Holdsworth, stuff like that. So I wanted to use that stuff, but I knew I didn't want to track live with it with a band. I've never really used that stuff out live. I just wanted to use it as a texture and textures for overdubs. Um, so yeah, that was my main focus, like just the sonic environment and being in control of all that. Um, I don't know. It was like it was a long time ago.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize it was that long ago because we had talked. We talked probably a couple of years ago. When we talked a couple of years ago, you were getting into um, old guitar synthesizers, vintage. It seems odd to speak of vintage guitar synthesizers,
Well,
but
that's where we.
yeah. So what have you picked up, and what were you using?
Um, well, the stuff I was finding really good deals online. It seems like the prices have doubled and tripled on these things since then. But I really liked the Roland. Um, and I have trouble with all the numbers, but the
Yeah,
GR 300. So I mean, I like how Matheny uses it, but when I was listening to the Bass Desires record where Frizzell's using it, I was like, I really would like to have this just to see what's possible. And then I can't remember where I saw it, but I saw Andy Summers doing a demo of it in the 80s with a expression pedal that had that filter sweep, and it just sounded too cool. So I liked that. I like that one a lot. I got the GR 100 too, which is doesn't isn't as versatile, but has a nice kind of distorted quality to it. It's an interesting sound. Um,
are they both non MIDI?
I think those are analog. I
Right,
mean, I really don't know. There's definitely no MIDI. It's a
right,
24
right.
pin cable, and that was the other terrifying thing about getting into the stuff. The cables are like $250 now. So
Yikes.
luckily, the units came with cables, so I didn't have to worry about. I waited for the right moment to get this stuff, but the other 24 pin cable Roland piece I like is is it the GR 700? Yeah, that's the big gray one. That one has some really good sounds in it. And then I think I've talked to you about the Korg X911. That requires no special pickup at all. That's just you plug your guitar in, and that has some really nice sounds in it. I I'm kind of disappointed in myself because I sold it and now they're like up to $800 and there's just no way I'm going to get that again. Um, but at the time, it was like buying an overdrive pedal or something.
Right.
So those three Roland pieces are really nice. I'm trying to remember, and then getting into the newer models, the plastic kind of floor models. I like the GR20, the GR. Is it the GR one? What did I use on part? Yeah, the GR1. That one's pretty. That one I enjoyed that one because there was no menu diving in that for the filter and resonance knobs. But I was just trying stuff out as they popped up for cheap online, so it was just kind of fun. Because I thought a lot of what I heard when people were using that stuff was like the end of the chain, but I wanted to really kind of put that at the beginning of my effects pedals, my chain, and then affect that sound. And I don't know. This is the result of all that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a nice combination. It works. You've integrated it really well with acoustic guitars, electric guitars, and the band, and it's all very musical. It doesn't sound like an experiment. Have you checked out Blake Mills's record of all analog
I
synths?
did. I was pretty deep in this one, and I listened to that. Yeah, it's very cool. It's very cool.
Yeah, it is. It's very musical. He makes the stuff sound great, and I was hoping to be able to interview him about his record after that, which was a guitar. Well, there wasn't much guitar, a little bit of guitar, a little bit of piano, very minimalist, but there were a few synth sounds on it, and I was really curious if he used the guitar synths for that or had the keyboard player do it or what. But yeah, you got some great sounds with the synthesizer, and I can understand if you were going to be using them. I mean, did you have any kind of tracking or glitching issues with any of them?
Yeah, of course. That was the other part of doing it like with using overdubs because
Right.
the chirping sound from that era of stuff I left it in at the end of the second song Dawn Cloud because I like the effect, but it now since we're recording Pro Tools, it's like no problem to just like chop off the front of the note or the back and copy and paste something, because yeah, it's just not deliberate. And but it's also cool because uh, it using that equipment limited what I could play, because it couldn't feed it too much information. So it was fun to see what was possible with these sounds. I'm really impressed. I know I've talked to you about this before too, but like the MIDI guitar app is really good. So using that with my laptop, I did some of that with this record too. Or I also got the URock guitar controller and was just plugging that in directly into my laptop. Like I was on a trip with Janelle and I recorded the part for which song was it? Oh, for Spinal Fusion. See, I have working titles in my head. I don't have the real song titles memorized yet.
Right.
But that was just me plugging into Ableton with the URock guitar. And then I went into the studio where my friend who engineers the records I've recorded on, Mike Reyna, took that audio, we ran it into a Studer tape machine and then very sped it and slowed it down so it got really fat and so very ambient and slow. And there's just so much to talk about in terms of the gear and the process.
Well, yeah, I'm interested. Obviously, we're interested in that, and everybody's interested in that. But there's other things. Oddly enough, well, before I go on though, what soft synths were you triggering with the MIDI guitar? Do you remember?
I was just using stuff in Ableton, the sounds in Ableton. I can't
Like
remember
operator or I mean stub patches in operator or analog.
Yeah, I scroll through the sounds and go through pads and look for something I like. I mean, I can't remember the exact sounds.
No, but I was just curious if you were using third-party soft synths or anything like that, or Reason. I mean, if there's, I mean, you could trigger that. The world is your oyster once you do, the MIDI guitar thing. You go the MIDI guitar app route. Anything. I mean, I've been getting into triggering samples.
Right.
Which that becomes a whole other thing, which is just amazing. I just discovered this guy, Patrick. Oh God, now I have no brain anymore. So let me just open my mail because I was going to interview him. I don't know how I didn't know about him. Maybe you do. Where is he? Oh, Patrick Higgins.
From Z.
Yeah, I think that he's in some project. But he's also a composer, and he also performs, as a guitarist into a laptop. Obviously, triggering. He uses something like the Fishman, and he's obviously triggering samples.
No, I'm a big fan of that. He has a record where he was playing Bach pieces but with effects on it. That stuff is great. And the samples, that's something I always want to do because you can map out samples across the fingerboard, different samples. And I thought that would be fun for a free improv kind of situation. But I mean, there's so much you can do.
There is.
But I mean, just controlling synths is another thing. Like on Honeymoon Room, I doubled my guitar with a Prophet 5 by running the MIDI information from the solo I took and then running it through the Prophet 5 and recording that so I could have another sound to blend in with my guitar tone. What else? Or on Beecher, I played through, maybe I have an Axon 100 that converts it to MIDI. So I was playing my it was a Juno 106, and I was playing with these counter melodies and playing the synthesizer and running that through a space echo, and just it's ridiculous, but it was really fun at the time.
Well, I mean, I have to say, Anthony, the record is really listenable. I mean, it's really musical, and you managed to make it sound really organic. I mean, obviously, people say, well, analog synths are going to sound more organic because they're analog, whatever. But that's not that's really not what it's about. What it's about is the way you integrated them. And oddly enough, I was as interested in your acoustic work on this as the synthesizer work, because there's a lot of acoustic guitar on it. What acoustic were you using, first of all?
I only have one steel string acoustic that I've had since I was maybe 16. It's a Gibson. It's called a Montana. It's a gospel.
Okay.
So um, that's just a bass. I mean, I write almost all of my music on that guitar, so I play it all the time. And I would like to have more acoustics. I just haven't had any others. I have a very cheap Yamaha classical guitar too. It's like the $200 model. So that's what I track with when I'm recording. But yeah, I mean, acoustic playing is how I write and how I practice a lot of the time. Um, I rarely plug in at home um, unless I'm trying to find specific sounds for recording. But yeah, I mean, and I've always been interested in, John Fahey's playing, and I play some, I play a little classical guitar, and yeah, just because I have 18 effects set up live doesn't mean, I always have them set up. It takes a lot of energy to set everything up. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to say
Well,
about.
the acoustic, what I was going to say about the acoustic thing is there's something about your attack when you
Mhm.
play acoustic that doesn't sound folky. It doesn't sound, I mean, it has a kind of intensity that I don't often hear on acoustic. And I was just curious if it was, are you using, what gauge strings are you using? Are you using
Just
light
medium
strings?
13s.
Okay.
But I mean, I love fingerstyle playing and I work on it. But right around this time, I decided to really stop pursuing it because it my body just fights the feeling. And I mean, when I'm talking about like John Fahey style playing. So I've committed to being a hybrid picking guitarist. So when I'm playing songs like that, I'm using hybrid picking, and I love these blue chip picks. I know I gave you one, so
Yes, I still have it.
good.
And it never leaves the house. Of course, I never leave the house these days either, so
Yeah,
it's not an
mine doesn't
issue.
either.
Um, so were you playing those acoustic parts in hybrid picking?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Honeymoon Room is the song I'm talking about now. That was written um, as a fingerstyle piece, but I was practicing it to record, and my hand just wouldn't kept slipping. So I'm constantly playing electric with hybrid picking. I play chords by picking with my fingers. So I just said, that's it. I'm gonna record this using hybrid picking, and it was far easier for me. So
Do you have nails on your other fingers or fake
I
nails?
do the really no, not fake nails. I just grow my nails out. They're really long right now, so I'm not going to show you. They're kind of like I have the quarantine nails. So, but yeah, I try to take care of them. Since I haven't been gigging, they've I've been able to maintain them
Right.
in a nice way. But when I'm playing, like when I was touring with them aesthetics for 6 months in 2019, my index finger, I just chip away at the nail. It never really grows
Right.
um, because of all the strumming and playing pretty hard. So
Well, you don't need that one if you're hybrid picking.
no,
Except
well, yeah, that's true. But now that yeah, well, contradicting myself all over the place.
except for I find I need a little bit for the pinch harmonics. It helps to have a little bit of a nail for when you're doing, pinch harmonics, catching it between that nail and the pick to get the squeals.
I could never do that. Use my index finger to get the pinch harmonic. I came up with a way where I hold my pinky out and then touch the partial with my pinky, and then I think Danny Gatton doesn't
Yeah.
he does it with his middle finger. I think he
Well,
touches.
yeah, if it, yeah, I mean that those are pure. I think pure harmonics when you're trying to get, play harmonics 12 frets above, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
The kind of thing I'm talking about more the Billy Gibbons, Robbie Robertson,
That's what I'm
type
saying. I could
of
never do that. So I'd have
yeah,
to like have the nail of my, I have the nail of my pinky resting on the string somewhere, and
yeah,
then I pick down into that,
and you get
and
the
I
same
can,
effect.
yeah, because I think you're just hitting the partials somewhere anywhere
Yeah.
anyway. So it's something I've struggled with, and I had to come up with my own way of doing it because I don't get that digging in thing. I tried, but I failed.
We all have our limitations. So is the sound you're playing acoustic on Sitting Under the Stars, is the sound under that, there's a sound under that. I didn't sound immediately like a synthesizer. I don't know if you remember.
No, I remember that because I recorded that one at home on my childhood 4-track. So the acoustics run through cassette, and then I brought it into the studio and ran it into Pro Tools. And then that other sound, that's just my loop. It's a loop, and we ran it through Mike Raina's Space Echo, and had no, I don't think any of the direct sounds in there. So it just came out. You press record, I let it play, and I was just like, oh, that sounds, that's what I want.
Yeah.
So one take, just a loop that I made, not even really listening to the track, and it just kind of all fell in there melodically and rhythmically in a nice way, just kind of by chance.
Yeah, it sounds beautiful. It sounds like a guitar synth arpeggio on Dawn Cloud. Is that what that is? Do you remember?
Yeah, that's the arpeggiated part is the GR700. So that has a ton of really nice sounds. I think I must have done like maybe 2 or 3 passes and blended some sounds together. And then the melodic stuff is the Korg X911. That's I was talking about where you just plug your guitar directly
Yeah.
in. When I double the acoustic solo in the second half, that's the Korg, and I think it's playing the melody too at certain
It's
point.
it's funny that's come around again. I mean, I don't know how they did it in the Korg days, but and I don't know if they're what they're using now, whether it's the same technology that MIDI guitar is using. But now there's the new Roland synths, the newer Boss synths, where you don't need a hex pickup and you can plug into it. They sent me the pedal. I talked about the pedal for my electronic musician column, and
I
it's
remember that.
it works really well.
That came out about the time I was doing this, and I went to Main Drag Music and played it, and I was just like, I need to stop. I can't.
Well, that
There
was
were some.
around then. 2014 would have been the big one. But
Yeah, that's what
yeah,
I was saying. It was.
now they have it in the standard Boss pedal size, with arpeggiation and everything in it. It sounds pretty good. But I assume do you got? I mean, most of these things come with preset patches, but do you get into them and start tweaking?
Um, well, with the GR300 and 100, yes, but I mean, you can't do a ton. I got the external box to tweak the GR700, but I never really messed with it too much. Well, no, I just try to find a sound that I like, and then I'll mess with the EQ and then run it through some delay and reverb. And no, I don't get super crazy with trying to tweak and tweak and tweak because I'd rather just work something out and keep moving instead of if you can spend a whole day trying to get a sound you like and then wake up the next day and say, oh, what was I thinking? So I just try to keep moving forward, as fun as that is. And when there's like deep menu diving, I don't even have the patience. So if it's there and I can put my hands on it, I'll spend some time. But
So besides delay and reverb, what kind of effects were you running the synths through?
there were times when I was running them through the instant lo-fi, the ZVEX pedal, to try to get that Boards of Canada kind of sound. Um, uh, can't remember anything specific, but just different delays, and it was more about the ambience surrounding the sound. That's what I was working on. So, some Strymon stuff, space echo, Moog delay. Yeah, I can't remember all. I'm sorry.
Oh, it's okay. You're still using that Earthquaker
Oh,
reverb?
the afternoon. Yeah, I love that thing.
Yeah.
That's on my board. It has been for a long time. I love what that does. So yeah. Um,
Yeah, it's become almost a part of your signature sound. So,
I didn't realize it at the time, but when I did the first Mesthetics record, yeah, it's like on half the songs at kind of peak moments. But I like how it opens up the dynamics of a song or a part without having to, use a ton of notes. Um,
are you using an expression pedal with it?
no, I've never. I don't really use expression pedals very often. There's so much on the floor already. I just kind of like to turn something on, know what it's going to sound like, and then turn it off. So I have been messing around with an expression pedal with the Bad Comrade. Have you heard that?
What is that?
It's I don't even know. It's a crazy noise pedal, and with the expression pedal, it has a glitch hold function, and then you can change the pitch of that. It's crazy, but I just got that recently, and that's been fun.
Who makes it? Do you know the company?
I just got it. I'm embarrassed to say I don't know.
Like I totally understand. People, anyone finds out that I write for guitar magazines and stuff like that. Oh, you must know every pedal in the world. And no, there are like 62 million pedals out there. I think I once did an article where I literally counted the number of just fuzzes in the world. And it was over 100 of just fuzz pedals. So, and there's new ones coming out every day, and there's new things coming out.
I mean, I remember when I had maybe 9 or 10, I just looked at them and I was like, I think I need to take a break. Because they all do something different, but it's all the same kind of world. But they sound amazing. And I mean, if it inspires you to do something, to me, it's justified. So
Sure.
I'm
Which
constantly
guitar?
selling stuff and getting new stuff. So
Which guitar were you using on the record? Do you remember? Electric
yeah,
guitar.
most of it was my Jazz Master. But to control the synths, I was using the G707. That's that Roland guitar with the stabilizing bar.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember
That one that's impossible to sit with. But I used that for the 24-pin stuff. And then I had my Sheltons built around this time to control the newer Roland stuff in the Axon. So that has I had a
There's a built-in
jack.
hex.
Yeah. So it's in the bridge. It's that Ghost system.
Right. Was that the guitar you were playing in Nashville the last time you played here, over in East Nashville? That tiny little club.
It's my Abernethy.
Oh, okay.
That's the one I was touring with right at the end. He brought that guitar to a show we were playing in Santa Barbara, and Greer told me about him when we were in Athens. And so he showed up with a bunch of guitars, and I played that one, and I really just loved it. So I played it for half the show. He told me he grew the tree they built that guitar with in his front lawn. So it's super light. It sounds really cool. It's kind of like an SG. And it has a really shallow break angle at the bridge and the nut. So I have 11s on it, but I can play legato stuff very easily and bend very easily. So the string tension seems pretty light. So that's the guitar I've been playing the most.
What pickups are in that one?
I think it's 2 humbuckers. I can't remember. I think the bridge is a DiMarzio, I think the neck might be a Lawler, but I can't remember exactly. I'm really bad with this kind of stuff. Like,
Well, what are these Sheltons of which you speak?
I'm just like, this is it. What's
Uh,
that?
what are these Sheltons of which you speak?
So the Sheltons, um, he was approaching me in DC when I was playing the kind of Danny Gatton stuff. He sent someone else out to a show I was doing because he had some Telecasters type guitars, and I was teaching at a university out in West Virginia. So his shop was in Harper's Ferry, so I'd drive by there to get out to work, and I stopped by and he had some offsets, some Jazzmaster type guitars, and said these are really cool. I like the way they felt, and I asked him to if it would be possible to make use the bridge, the piezo bridge, to get an acoustic sound kind of out of it, and then the 13-pin jack. So he made it for me and put my name on it, and yeah, he put Bardens in it. So that guitar has three separate outputs. It has the stereo jack for my guitar going into my pedals. Then I ran the other side to an AER for that piezo kind of sound. And then the 13-pin jack was hidden on the bottom of the body, so I could run it to guitar synths. So I love those guitars too.
Did you get a chance to play those? Were you playing those out live with the Aesthetics before lockdown?
Yes, I have the first one, the prototype, I brought to the UK. Then I brought the other one out a few times. I brought it to Japan. You can see it in that Earthquaker video, and one or two other runs that we did. But they're great. I mean, I love those guitars too. And I mean, at the time I was working on all this stuff, so it was the perfect thing for me. It was I could have access to all of these crazy guitar synth sounds, but the guitar didn't look like a spaceship or something. It just looked like what I would normally play. So that was.
So is the piezo, the hex pickup is in a Jazzmaster style bridge?
No, it's like a Tunematic. It's the Graph Tech
Oh, okay.
system. Um, so yeah, it's different, but it feels good. Like with all this stuff, if I don't get really focused on what is making the guitar work so that I can use it on every guitar, it's like if it's working on the Shelton, I'm happy. I don't need to put it on the Abernathy. I just look for the instrument to be functioning in a way that I can play well or play my best. So,
Well, sure. And there's no guarantee.
I have it, you know.
Yeah, there's no guarantee that it would work on the other guitar anyway. But
No.
on the Shelton, so it's a Tunematic bridge, but does it have the Jazzmaster style tailpiece?
Yeah, well, on the prototype, I didn't want to have any of the third bridge information because I know with the stabilizing bar and on like the Ibanez uh, guitar synth controller, they would take off the headstock because that would create overtones that would confuse the hex pickup. So my theory was that if I had a normal Jazzmaster tremolo system on this, that ringing from the third bridge could confuse the pickup because I mean it's sitting on the bridge is the pickup, so stuff is vibrating here. I didn't want to have chirping from the synths, so I had him just put like a Les Paul, tailpiece on it. After that, he built me the second one with a Jazzmaster um, vibrato system, and there was no real issue, which surprised me. So then I went back to him and had him put a Bigsby on the prototype. So yeah, so I can add that to guitar synth, which is cool because it kind of sounds like an LFO when you do a wide vibrato like that.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I know that can work fine with the MIDI guitar software, but it's interesting to know that it can work with a hex pickup as
Yeah, I was
well.
surprised. I was really surprised.
Yeah, that's cool. What else? Oh, Maury Point. It's interesting. We were just listening to that in the car, and Liz said, it sounds like a video game.
Oh, It
No,
is.
well, huh?
No, no, I better not get too deep in this, but there are video game samples all over that track.
She's got great ears, my wife.
Yeah, she does.
It's
I
true. She'll
found
be.
them on the internet, so I don't want to get too into what it is.
No, no, we don't know, and I wouldn't know anyway. I'm too old. I don't know all those video games. Um,
So don't
but
ask me why I thought that was a good idea, but I wanted that in the track. A bunch of the bouncing noises and
well, I mean, it seems like a sound that attracts you because I think there was a sound that didn't sound like it was a video game sample, but had that video game like arpeggiation attitude in one of the other tunes as well. I can't remember which one. Um, what's creating the ambience around the guitar in on Part and Particle?
okay, that was my prototype Shelton going into a Flint, and that's the particle, the red panda pedal.
I
Is that it sitting right there behind you?
behind me. Yes, it's up on the shelf, and yeah, right here I've got this also.
Yep. So that's the particle is doing the stuttering, and then we ran that through a Yamaha rotating speaker, a big unit that Mike Reyna had. I think David Gilmour used that for something. It's just one of the studio things Reyna has. So I think that's all. And then at the end of that, I tucked in some guitar synths from the GR1. And that last drone is that synth going through the instant lo-fi to get that kind of tone.
That's so funny because my actual question was, what is creating the ambience around the guitar on Part and Particle? And don't tell me it was the Red Panda particle.
I'm sorry to have to tell you.
Because yeah, so obvious. If it was, it did kind of sound like it. And if it was, what a perfect way to name it. That makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
because I mean, naming these songs can be really hard.
Yeah.
Sometimes name after the pedal you're using.
And it'll make Kurt really happy. Um, there is that. Yeah, I think you talked about this. Oh, the synth in the background on Beecher. I think you may have said what it was, but to me, it had that Metheny trumpet type sound. So was that similar synth?
No, that's the GR 300. So that is the Metheny synth. And I was using the G 700 to control it with the stabilizing bar. But the Roland that I was talking about, it's not a Juno 106. It's the cheaper version, or the version with the two speakers built in. It's called an HR 106. So someone gave me one of those, and because I was having my Juno repaired, and the shop closed up and then shut down their email and phone, and my synth just disappeared. So someone gave me this as a replacement. But that's doing the slower kind of melodies in the background in the beginning and throughout. But
the trumpet sound is the same synth as Metheny used for his trumpet sound.
I don't know if it's the same. It's the same pedal, and that pedal just has it's not a very versatile pedal. It has its own thing. So yeah, it should sound like Metheny, but that's not probably exactly what I was going for. But it's hard to get away from that.
Yeah, well, I mean, when Frizzell played some of those sounds, it's just Metheny made those sounds so much a part of his music that it's become identified with him. But I totally share your frustration with the numbers system of naming this stuff. I mean, it seems to be a Japanese.
To have my credit here to make sure I'm doing the right thing.
Well, it seems to be a Japanese thing because Ibanez is the same way. I mean, they would make these cool guitars and then call them the GBX745 as distinguishing it from the GBX747, model. And it's like, how am I supposed to remember this? I mean, I used to have they made a really cool guitar for a while. I don't know if you remember it. It was baby blue, no cutaway, hollow, and with block inlays. They made it for about a year, and I had one, and it was great. Two humbuckers, sounded great. It was a no cutaway, like, you know, it looked like a Gibson, old Gibson no cutaway, except that it was in baby blue with binding, and the neck hit the body at such a point that the lack of cutaways wasn't an issue. And I love that guitar, and I tried to tell people which one I had, but it was called like the GBX 504 or something like that. And I can't remember it. And now talking to you about all these different synthesizers, I'm sure I know the synthesizers, but I don't know the numbers, you know. I mean, but there will be people watching this. The last time I interviewed somebody who used guitar synthesizers, I got letters. People know their guitar synthesizers.
Oh, I know. I'm leaving a lot of opportunities for people to correct me. It's usual.
Well, you have it written down, so you know you're
Yeah,
ahead of
that's
the
right.
game.
More top of it too.
So, is there a part of Untitled Atlas that's just a free improv type
Oh
thing
yeah,
with the band?
most of it is that that song is just a head. So the melodic piece in the beginning is the composition, and the rest of it is just free improv. Um,
Now, how did you do that? Did you have Chess and Michael in the room for that, or
that was put together more or less like a collage. So yeah, that's really all I can say about it. Some of it was I had a piece that we recorded um, together, and I took my guitar out and started experimenting with sounds, and when Chess came down, he brought some electronics and just did some samples so that I could play with it and chop it up. So that drum loop that comes in is from that. He had an iPad and was just making some sounds for me because I wasn't sure what this record was going to be at all. I just wanted to approach it in a different way. So I went home with the tracks and I did some tracking at home with Ableton, and I was thinking about, you know, there's some ideas from like Morton Subotnick and, you know, just trying things out, just experimenting and trying to see if I can get sounds that I don't normally hear and something that I would be interested in listening to. So, you know, I don't know if I've put it like this before, but this record to me was more like a puzzle because I had a limited amount of stuff to work with, and then I had to build on top of that. So it took a long time. And that I will say the end of that song, at the end of this improvisation we did, Chess played this little Casio keyboard and played that outro. And I just knew that I loved that so much. I just couldn't wait for that to be the end of any piece or some piece on the record. I think it goes on for like a minute and a half, but I just love what he played. It's a little thing in 5, and then he loops it, and it goes twice as fast. It's just, I'm just such a huge fan of their playing and their music. So,
yeah, they're brilliant. So it's interesting. You chose to do this record. It's almost like you presaged COVID because you chose to do this record in a way that people are now having to do records.
yeah, yes. I mean, it was also like at the end of Palo Colorado Dream. That's like all the stuff that I really want to record, and I had 10 years to put it together because that's my first recording as a, you know, a leader in a trio situation.
Right.
So that's like, well, I have these other pieces, but I haven't been playing them out, so I don't really know what they are. And you know, I wasn't ready to commit to like documenting it in a session for a day and then releasing a record. So I just wanted to see where it would grow, and it just took forever. And after a few years, the Mesthetics, I started playing with Joe and Brendan, so I stopped working on this. I was about 85% done, and then we went into that. And I was thinking that playing with the Mesthetics was really a relief for me at the time, because when I was doing this, I was just all there by myself trying to figure out what to do. And, you know, the Mesthetics basically track live all the way through. Even if I add some overdubs, the solos and everything are just played much like on Paulo Colorado Dream, but it was the exact opposite of what I've been working on for years. So I don't know. I don't
Oh,
know
it's
why I'm
great
telling
to
you.
go back and forth. I mean, that's
Yeah.
that's part of the artistic process. I mean, it's almost every artist feels that. Well, I've been doing this for a while. I need to do something else, and now I may be ready to go back to that, whatever that was again. So you just sent me just before we talked a bunch of stuff, and I had a chance to check some of it out. The 6 and 6
Six
recording,
six. Yeah.
6/6, was that how was that put together?
That so my good friend Luke Stewart, the bassist from DC, he's I don't know, we've been collaborating on and off for a long time. And at a certain point, we started doing some duo shows in DC, and um, we did quite a few of them. So we decided to go into the studio and record. And we just we're an improvising duo, so we went into the studio, played the first track, took a break, went back in, and played the second track. And it sat there for a while. Um, And after I recorded with Henry Kaiser, he was talking about, I don't know, some projects he was working on. So I asked him to, if he would be interested in mixing it. And, he said, yeah. So he helped get it done. And that's just us playing. So,
Does he play a 6 string bass? Is that where the 6/6 comes from?
yes. Yes, with effects. And
Yeah.
we're usually more like the second side of that recording. We're just like frantic, heavy improv stuff. But the first thing we did is I really like a lot because it's very ambient and it's not like what we normally do. And I'm very proud, especially of the last part of side A. I think I don't know. That was a really special moment just to be there with my friend and create that, and then listen back like, wow, I don't even know who's really playing what. um,
That's an interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting that you say that, because those have been some of my most fun moments and weird moments on stage. Like when I was playing in the Potato Eaters with a pedal steel player who was using a lot of effects, and we would start doing ambient stuff and together, and all of a sudden you'd be listening and you go, "Is that me or is that him?" I'm not quite sure what's coming out, and and I've spoken to other people who do that kind of thing, and you get that kind of reaction, and it can be a little disconcerting because it's like, well, if it's him, I don't have any control over it, but if it's me, I do. You know?
right, right. It forces me to be a bit more careful
Yeah.
and more there. Um, so yeah,
Yeah, I guess if you're more deliberate, then it's what you've done. But once the effects start taking over, I mean, then it's kind of like I mean, lately I've been doing some ambient stuff, and I'll be playing through something, and there'll be voices singing, and I'm going, "What is that?" And there's no vocal samples, there's no nothing. It's just some kind of combination of frequencies that are interacting, and all of a sudden I'm hearing voices.
that's exact. I know exactly what you're talking about. On the first Janelle and Anthony record, the last track, "Goodbye Angels," is just my loop, and it sounds like there are singers. And I don't know how I did it. I don't. It was just a guitar, so I don't know. I'm right there with you. I know what you're talking about.
Well, it's great when the overtones start singing. Speaking of sitting on something for a while, that and Janelle, that Susan Alcorn music that she arranged, that apparently was from June or July 2012 performance, which makes me wonder how I missed it, because I was still in New York in those days. Although we were starting to, I don't know, did I know you in those days back
No,
then?
not yet.
Yeah,
No.
maybe that's what it was.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, because I would, and I don't know if I knew Susan back then either. How's she doing, by the way? Have
She's
you been in touch?
Janelle's been in touch with her because they released this um, and a duo record on the same label that released 6/6, Atlantic Rhythms. They have a duo record called Sister Mirror. Um, but yeah, she's doing good. I mean, I think she just released a new record.
Yeah, she's got a new record. It sounds terrific. I'm not
So-
sure it's out yet. I think it's coming out in November 13th or something like that.
yeah, I don't know about the date, but because it's kind of been floating around here. So
Yeah, because I
super
just put
tight.
to get I just put together my record, my record picks, and I was thinking about including that, but I try and make it stuff that's already available. So I'll have to do another one, or maybe even interview her for that one because we haven't spoken in a while.
Yeah, great.
And was there one more record, the 6/6, the Susan Alcorn, and what was
And
the
I did a version of In C
Oh
in
yeah, what is that?
2011. So can I talk about the Susan Alcorn record for a minute?
Oh
Because
sure.
I'm so proud of that one. Um, I just want to give a shout out to my wife, Janelle Lapine, because she arranged that entire record. Um, we we've been close with Susan for a long time, but we went to see her and play in Baltimore one night and just went in to say hello. And she asked Janelle to arrange all of her music for a residency at the Issue Project Room. And she said, I don't want to play, I just want to hear my music arranged for a group. So Janelle spent 6 months in Seattle and arranged Susan's solo pedal steel work for this ensemble that was like, that whole record is just a live show all the way through. And it's with me, Janelle on cello, Schoolis Farrison on bass, Avon Kong on viola, his wife, Jessica Kenny on vocals, and Doug Weisselman on clarinets. And I'm just so proud of that. We actually just got a test pressing for the vinyl of that release this morning, and we're just listening to it. And again, Mike Reyna, my friend, mixed it. I'm just really proud of that record. So I just wanted to give Janelle a shout out.
Yeah, as well you should because it sounds beautiful and it's the arrangements are terrific and it must have been I'm so sorry I missed being able to see it live. Uh,
Yeah, that was the first show where I really felt like I can't believe I'm up here with these people. These are like my heroes, you know. So that was a really special night. One of my favorite concerts I've ever done.
the only thing now that I think of it, that was in the new issue. Am I thinking of an issue project room? What was that in that kind of industrial complex, or was this after they opened the new one?
I think it's the new one. It's downtown.
Oh yeah, okay, that's the new one. Because the
Yeah.
old issue project, well, the first issue project room was the silo, which was
Yeah, no.
that was fabulous. Then the next one was in this kind of industrial complex that felt like Berlin, where you go through archways into a courtyard and it's all brick. But in the summer, there was no air, or they had to turn the air conditioning off in the summer. So seeing shows there in the summer could be a little brutal.
I know that feeling from being in the Stone in the
Yeah,
summer.
yeah, that was another one. Okay, so yeah, I never made it to the new issue project room. I think it opened shortly before we left New York, and our car had died and made going places like that difficult, and so that was the deal. But yeah, it is a beautiful record, and I hardly recommend people pick it up or check it out on Spotify or wherever they get their music. So back to In C, what was that about?
So in DC, I was a part of this annual experimental festival called Sonic Circuits for 10 years in a row. And in 2010, they asked me to do a free performance of In C outside in Silver Spring, Maryland, at this open air plaza called Veterans Plaza, just in the middle of downtown Silver Spring. So I think they were expecting me to do like a really lo-fi version of the piece with a few people. But it was a really special opportunity for me because I got to ask a bunch of different people that I had known for a while and been playing with from different scenes to take part. So I had people in the jazz scene, from the indie scene, from the improv scene, the experimental scene. There were people, I mean, it says synthesizers in the score, so I just had people doing noise stuff. And I put together an ensemble of 30 people, and it was a really nice moment for me. I don't know what to say. It was also the first time, the Washington Post came and wrote it up, and it was the first time I got some kind of press for playing. But I also learned something that day because I would double up on gigs, sometimes play 2 gigs a day, sometimes 3. And that was the day where I learned I couldn't do it anymore because I put that together, did that, and then I had a show a few blocks away at this place called the Quarry House Taverns that had Rockabilly Saturday nights. And I had a 4-hour Rockabilly gig, and going from that hour-long piece and to a 2-minute a song 4-hour gig, just something broke. I was like, I can't handle this. This is too much. So, but I don't know. After we did the performance, I said, well, I know all these people, and they were all willing to do it. I should probably try to record it. So I approached the person who runs the recording department at American University in Washington, D.C., and asked if he would record this. And he said yes. So they had two consoles running. All 30 of us were in the tracking room. Ran it once, and I took all the tracks, brought them to Mike Reyna, and it was pretty crazy because nothing was labeled properly, and mixing took forever. And by the end of it, my feeling at the time was, this is really cool, but put a lot of energy into this. And I think I felt like if I was going to release stuff, I wanted to release my own music. So I kind of had it sitting there finished for a long time. And once all of this happened, I decided it might be a good time to just put it out there. And if anyone wants to listen, they can listen to it. It's a nice, relaxing piece to kind of sit with for an hour, chill out.
Well, for anyone who doesn't know or who is vague about what In C is, could you describe it?
Sure. It's I can't remember how many passages now. Do you remember?
No, I'm one of those people who's vague about it. I have a rough idea of what it is, but
It's just little melodic fragments. So the first one just goes booty, 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 and then the next one goes booty, booty. And as the performer, there's a pulse. It's supposed to be a piano playing C, but I had someone playing cowbell because I thought that would be hilarious. But we found a cowbell pitched to C, so my friend sat there for an hour doing this. And you can play the melodic fragment whenever you want in time, as long as it's lining up to the beat. It's just like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 if you want it to be. So everything starts phasing. It's one of the first minimalist pieces, and or at least big ones. And then when you're ready to move on to the second melodic statement, you as the performer decide when to shift. So it's you can never play it the same way twice. Everyone's in charge of when they're playing and not playing. There's no conductor there to control the situation, even though I said I conducted it. I just meant that loosely. And yeah, you're supposed to stay within 3 or 4, the group is supposed to stay within 3 or 4, I guess, cells. So it's moving along at its own pace, and it takes about an hour to get through. It might be like 53, 52, 54 melodies that you can play. And it's, a lot of it's chance, a lot of it's listening, but there are some moments in there that you couldn't compose. I mean, even in our version, there are some parts where I'm really proud of what we did. So it's a very interesting piece.
And you were playing as well.
I was playing, and I was just there to kind of keep things going in case there was a stutter or things were going to fall apart. I was prepared to kind of give some direction, but I didn't really need to. And yeah, that was an exciting thing for me. And it was kind of weird that I didn't release it, but I'm happy that I didn't at the time.
It seems like a good time to release it now.
Yeah.
So what else? What are you doing during lockdown to keep creative and keep busy?
I'm practicing a lot. I'm writing a lot. I mean, this time has allowed me to wrap up these kind of loose ends. Um, but I've also finished two records that I will, they're mastered. I was hoping to get at least one of them out this year, but I've run out of time. So there are two records done, ready to go. One is a harsh noise guitar record that I like a lot. Captured the feeling, I have right now. And the second one is called Inside, and it's just me playing with overdubs through my Axe effects, which I love right now. I got one from a friend right before all this happened, and I recorded this whole record with headphones on in my apartment, no sound in the air, and I think it sounds really good. It sounds like a guitar being tracked in the other room coming through monitors. I'm really impressed with what I was able to do with the tones I was able to get, and even the effects in the software, or controlling the effects with the software, was really easy, and I think they sound amazing. And I was able to put plugins in on the stuff after I tracked it to get the right kind of sound I wanted around the parts. So I'm proud of that one. But
When do you think? When will that be coming out?
I don't know. Hopefully in the first part of next year. I just don't know what to do with it yet. So I might self-release it. I might see if someone wants to put it out. But that's it's like songs. So I don't know. That's what I've been up to. I've also been just practicing a lot, working on solo guitar. Janelle and I have been writing. Janelle and I also have a third record that'll be coming out next year. That's a vocal record. She's singing on every song. So that's done. Been practicing solo guitar stuff. Want to do a record where I play songs like Spring is Here by myself. And I've been looking into kind of some serial compositions for the guitar, which has been fun. So I just try to stay busy and focus on some things that I haven't been able to work on when I'm touring or gigging all the time. So it's been weird because I've realized that my the favorite part of my relationship to music is actually me being at home by myself in my room trying to learn things. So even though it's really great to tour for half of the year and go all over the world, that's my favorite part of music, is working and discovering and composing things.
That's really interesting. I mean, I'm hearing a lot of musicians saying some of what you're saying, not just that this is giving them a chance to do stuff that they've been too busy to do, things like practicing certain things, working on certain techniques. I just want to backtrack for a second. Were you running your pedal board into the Axe effects, or just using effects in the Axe effects?
I haven't even plugged my effects pedals in.
Okay.
So, which is I'm surprised, because when I was touring, I remember in Japan, someone was like, "You got to try an Axe effects," and I mean, I'm all into vintage amps and pedals, and I was just like, okay, yeah, but I don't know. I don't think that's for me. And it was happening a lot. And then finally, when I got one and plugged it in, I was just like, I mean, I've been in a studio and spent the whole day, and I didn't get a tone I was happy with. But this is just like plugging it in immediately and it being like, this sounds really good. I don't know what to say. So, and there's no need to use a Strymon reverb in the change, because there are so many reverb options. And if I didn't find something in Axe Effects, I could use the Valhalla Shimmer, or some Sound Toys plugin or whatever. It's all there.
Yeah, that makes sense for the ambient effects, but in front of it, were you happy with their overdrive effects? And,
That's the thing. Were you done? I'm sorry.
well, I was going to say, can you plug things like the particle or stuff into a loop on it if you wanted to?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can. I mean, I did some of that. It wasn't just exclusively, but I mean, it was not very often. Um, I was really surprised by how much I liked like their version of the Rat. When I plugged it in and played, I was like, this is kind of doing what I feel with the Rat. And like I said, I was not open to this at all. It was just like, oh my God, this is really, really pretty good. So the overdrives, I mean, I can't wait to send you this recording, and then you can tell me what you think. But the thing that I think that XFX does well is the overdrive, like playing right where the amp is going to break up. That's where I like to set my guitar. And when I've played the Kemper, when people were telling me about that, I thought it did a really clean thing pretty well and a very saturated thing very well. But I was with headphones, I was putting on like a Danny Gatton track, and then I put my telly in to the XFX, and I could listen to both, and I could kind of sit there and sculpt the tone a little bit. And I mean, compared to something that came out on a major label and just a guy sitting there in his room for free, it was pretty close.
Yeah, well, this stuff has come a long way. I mean, for me, the best thing I've tried is the Bias FX amp, the modeling system, their software. And it's just because of that thing you were talking. I haven't tried an XFX since they first came out. When they first came out, I sat down at a guitar show. They had me sit down and try it, and I said, I can't get a decent sound out of this. But that was like literally when they first came out. I'm sure they've come a long way since then, and just everything's come a long way since then. And it's exactly that thing you're talking about. All the software and all the digital stuff can do a great overdriven sound. They can do a great clean sound. But the hardest thing for them to do is that edge of breakup sound, that dynamic thing that responds to your guitar, that breaks up more when you hit it harder, in the amps especially, and plays and cleans up when you just back off your attack, or you back off your volume, or just even that slight breakup sound is always the way it trails off, always sounds a little weird. But it sounds like the XFX has nailed it. The Bias FX have nailed it, and pretty much, I did a series on modeling software for guitars, and I tried almost all of them, and I just tried another one. Just did my last column. I stopped the series, but then I checked out a new one. Just because. Do you know Dan Phelps? Do you know
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I was watching one of his videos, and he was using this thing, and and he was getting a decent sound out of it. So I had them send it to me, and I checked that one out. But every single one of them, except for Bias FX, and it sounds like the new XFX, when you try and get that edge of breakup sound, it just either doesn't sound right, or it doesn't respond right, or it doesn't trail off right. It's that kind of thing. But if that does it, that's the secret. That's the really.
I mean,
thing.
yeah, and I mean, I haven't played it really in a way where it would act as like a real amp in the room. Like I said before, I'm listening to it like I would in a studio, hearing the guitar coming through the monitors. Right. And it was like nailing that. And it's like I just want to add that it has like an unpredictable quality, like the amp. It's like when you're pushing and pulling that point. The XFX, when I had headphones, I was just like, it's really doing that where I don't know exactly what's going to happen. It's felt like you're playing an amp. I just don't know what else to say. So I'm all for it. I wrote them. I was just like, this is really, really great. And I would love to try the one that you're talking about, the Bias, because
Yeah, it's just soft a plugin, for I mean it's a standalone or a plugin for whatever DAW. But yeah, and I also understand your feeling of the feeling you get when you're doing that because I play here with my amps and pedals and all the stuff, but sometimes I'll just plug in. I'll be sitting at my desk here and plug in to Ableton with Bias FX, or some of these other ones got some good sounds, and I'll get a good sound, and I'll be sitting there, and it's so nice to just be able to. I'll listen through my studio monitors, and I'll be able to hear like I'm an a guitar sound that I don't have to worry that it's too loud. It's not hurting my ears, but it sounds like it's on a record. And I've done records. I mean, I've done tracks for people with the software, and nobody's complained yet.
No, I know it's crazy. Um, yeah, I mean, and it's just when you put all of your effort into this other thing, like I love amps, I love pedals, just to have that moment where it flips, it's like, oh my, wait, what's happening? But I mean, the sound is there, so that's all that matters. Um, because I was very scared of this. I did an overdub on the Five Time Surprise um, record at home with a pod on the I can't remember which setting, but it was just like it wasn't right. So I was trying this stuff out, but it was not something I ever thought I would truly believe in, but I do now.
It's funny you mentioned a pod. I mean, I did a record where I did a lot of the guitars on the original Kidney pod and got some great tones like that. And who is it? Jack Pearson. You know who Jack? Jack from Nashville. He's the guy everybody else in Nashville, all the other guitar players genuflect to. And he did a bunch of his records on all the original Kidney pod, and it
I
sounds
used
great.
the Satriani setting on that one, and I was like, yeah, that sounds really good, but it's too easy, and it's not for me.
Well, you know, things are changing, but I hope you guys are staying safe and healthy. That's the main thing, and and we can talk for a bit maybe when we turn the recorders off for a
Sounds
second
great.
if you got a minute.
I do.
Okay,
Thank you so much.
but thank you so much for doing this, and I'll get it put up as soon as possible. And
Thank you so much, Michael.
safe travels.